Okay, everybody, we're going to start now. Um, we have Kaya, Evan, and potentially Nick Qued now presenting, and they're going
Hi.
to take it away.
So, hi everybody. Welcome to programming. Evan, are you gonna read the slides, or do you do that?
You can.
Yeah.
Okay, so programming, it's writing computer programs. Uh, the programs are just a set of instructions that we give to a computer to tell it what to do. And for robotics, we're creating a program on the computer that it'll take inputs from various sources and then use those to tell the robot what to do. So Java is the uh oh okay. So Java is the programming language we use mainly for our team. It's one of the more popular ones around. And so each one has its specific syntax, which is the way that you have to write it. So, I mean, basically just grammar, yeah. Should be good for the next slide. There we go. So now in programming, there's variables. Variables are just uh, like ways of storing something with a name. So there's different types. The main ones are uh, integer, character, double, string, and a boolean. The integer is just any whole number, so like 0, 1, 2, 3. A double can have decimals and such.
I do not. I do not know what's.
So a character is just, a singular letter like R, and then a double can be decimals, negatives, or, yeah. A string is just a series of characters. And a boolean is just a true or false. Should be good. Okay. And then declaring variables, how you uh, this is how you tell the computer like what type of data that you want to store and then what the name you're going to assign to that data is. So for an example, we have double shooter velocity equals 25.7. So that means that we want a double so we can have any number. We want to name it shooter velocity so we know what it is, and then we want to have it as a value of 25.7. You don't always need to set the variable equal to something, so you could just say double shooter velocity and then end it right there and say what it's equal to later. So classes, that's just like it's just kind of holds everything inside of it. So yeah. For the example, we have like the one team might have a student, mentor, and parent. Those are all classes, and then there would be objects and uh, instances inside of each of those classes. So like the students would have like a manufacturing sub-team, which would be inside of it. So yeah, that's an example of a class. Very nice picture made by Nick. So you have the father class, which and the variables inside of that class are so yes. I'm answering
And
Daniel's question in chat.
Evan, don't forget to read the question out so that we
Okay.
can see if people are watching the video later, they know what we're talking about.
Alright, so is there a way of setting multiple variables in the same thing like in JavaScript, such as x equals 0, y equals 0, and z equals 0? So yes, you can set multiple variables. I don't really know if that syntax works with like the commas, but as you can see with how many variables we have right here with the name, age, gender, hungry, children, then tired. So you can set multiple different variables. And so those would be the variables of the father class, and the functions would be eat, drink, and sleep.
Hey, Evan. Just
Yes.
to answer the question, the syntax for Java is the semicolon. So if you want to put all of your variables on one line separated by semicolons, it works.
Oh yeah.
It just doesn't look clean. So something you should always do in Java, the preferred way is to put everything on its own line, so that it's easier to read.
Okay. Should be good. Okay. So this is gonna show a class in action. So we have
Here's a little animation.
yes, it's very nice. We have the father. We have the program asking for father.age. So our storekeeper is gonna grab the father class. Then gonna open it. They're gonna pull out the integer of age, and then they're gonna hand it to the program, and that's how he will acquire it. So now we're going to move on to naming because that's something very important because if you have bad names like AAA, what does that mean? Like what's that supposed to mean? But if you have something like wheel speed, then you know that variable is what speed the wheels are supposed to be going up. Same with velocity. Velocity, it's velocity, but of what? So it's not the greatest thing. Now, shooter velocity with no distinctions between shooter and velocity could be bad just because uh, it's hard to kind of distinct them from. Yes, underscores are available. Yes, they're acceptable to use. Underscores are acceptable. We just had the camel case in there, so we could try to do one or the other. But so then with camel case, you just capitalize the beginning of each word after the first one. So shooter's not capitalized, but velocity is.
And if I may add something here, I know we don't have this in the slides, but yeah, so we don't have this in the slides necessarily, but the reason we have these is to make our stuff more organized, which also goes back to that's why you don't put everything just on one line, because you want other people to be able to read it, which is also why we add a thing called comments, which is where it doesn't affect how the code runs at all, but it can tell people who are reading it how the code works, and that's usually just 2 slashes. So what I would like to do now is I'm going to put some random variable name in the chat, and you guys are going to answer in the chat if it's a good variable name or not, and why. So let's say this. So I put speed in the chat, just the word speed. So people are saying no. Yes, somebody said bad because it's speed of what? We don't know. So now I'm going to say here's the next one, shooter speed, but with no distinctions between the words. Are we sure it's a good one? That's right, because there is no distinction between the words. You can't easily tell which word is which. Now I put shooter speed, but the S in speed is capitalized. Is that a good one, and why? Yes, because it has distinctions between the words, and it clearly outlines what you want to do with that variable. All right. Back to presenting.
Dana, are you talking about like just speed as in only that? Like there's nothing before it? speed and shooter. And the second example, the shooter speed is. Oh, like capitalize with. You don't. Capitalizing the first letter of a line doesn't look as neat. And I mean, it's just another consistency thing. It's what we've always been doing. Like, you usually don't capitalize the first character on a line. Okay, so next thing is conditionals. They're used to tell if a line of code should run or not, or if a group of lines should run or not. The main ones we have are else if else. So you would have like if this is that, or so like if x equals 10, then it would run this line of code. But if it's not and x is equal to 11, then it would run a different line of code. And then if it was neither of those, it would do a different thing. Do while loops are so it would run a line of code while like x is equal to 5 or something like that. And then when the second x isn't equal to 5, it would stop doing that. For loops, they're mainly used for incrementing. So you would declare the first variable, which is integer I, and you would say less than 5, and then the I++ is that every time that for loop runs, it'll increment I by 1. So after it goes through it 5 times, it's not going to do it again.
An increment means to increase, or can you also decrease, or is that like called something different? I don't remember. Because you can also do minuses, I think.
I mean, I don't really see the point in using minuses.
There are a lot of different things that use minuses, not in robotics as much, but you can call it decrementing technically.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I've just never seen it used with minuses. I've always seen I++ or I+ equals 1. So why is there int? Wouldn't just int be good enough? No, because we need to declare that it's a variable first. I probably missed that when I went over variables. That's sorry about that. But you have to tell the computer that you're making a variable first, and then you declare what type of variable it is, then the name, and then what it's equal to. Sorry about that. Okay, so now we're gonna go over to Codecademy.
It's a very good thing I have an account.
So
yeah, go to Codecademy. Did I immediately spell that wrong? Yeah, there we go. So now we're gonna go to Codecademy. Yes, Evan just put that in the thing. So I already have a login, but for you guys, if you don't already know programming, you probably haven't used Codecademy, and so you're gonna click sign up, and then type in an email and a password and click the start button. I'm not sure if it sends you a confirmation email or what. Evan, do you remember? I think it does.
I don't actually think it does. I've got screenshots of all of it.
And you can also make a Google account with it.
I would probably just use the email and password just because it's easier.
Yeah. So if you guys want to go ahead and do that, that's just go ahead and
Google account as well.
Yeah, just do whatever is going to be easier for you. But yeah, just click sign up in the codecademy.com. And then while you guys do that, I'm going to go ahead and log in, assuming I remember my password. There. So you'll probably be taken to a screen something like this.
You can scroll all the way down to find it as well, Kaya.
Yes. Yeah, there's at the bottom there's a little thing called Java where you can type Java in the search bar. So I already have some stuff in here. But yeah, if you just scroll down and click on Java,
So has everybody got an account so far, or there's some people still making their account?
let's say this. If anybody's not made an account, then post in the chat that
If you
you're
already
not
have one,
ready
you
for
can
us to
just
move
log
on.
into that one.
What?
If you already have an account, you can just log into that one.
Yeah, let's use that. And if you've already done this on Codecademy, like learn Java or something, and you already know Java, it'd still be good to like go back go back to it and maybe just practice with it if you want to.
Kaya, while we're waiting, you can actually reset your progress if you want, so you can go through like the first couple.
Yeah, I kind of want to get. So I looked at it, and I want us to get past. I think I want us to get to variables, so we can have work with that.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll do that as I go along because I'd like to keep my later ones just so I can go back and review them if I need to. But yeah, I'll do it. You can erase individual exercises once you get in there. I'll do that.
Nick ended up saying, so do I hit the button that says learn Java? Yes, you do. Press that
Yeah.
button.
Yep, there's a course right here that says learn Java. It's usually going to be titled with a little thing that says course. Oh look, it has a little animation. How cool. That might be because I've already done it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's because you did 100% on it.
Yeah. So is anybody having trouble getting on there? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in with Evan's account just so we can use his already reset one. It says you need a computer and I don't have a computer. Do you have a
You can
Chromebook?
actually use your Chromebook.
Yeah, do you have your Chromebook with you? So yeah, this is Evan's. So I'm going to go ahead and go just to the Learn Java course, and eventually it should take you to a screen like this.
So is anybody having issues up till now, except for the? Yeah, you can use your Chromebooks for Codecademy.
I think I'm gonna leave early because I've got a wasp in my house.
Okay, that's fine, Nick.
Later.
See ya.
So everybody else good?
Type in chat if you're still waiting to get in or something like that.
Hopefully it's not like the CAD training thing where we had to wait basically 20 minutes. Okay. But Daniel, do you have an account already? Okay. So you're just waiting for it to load? I like the extreme head nodding. Daniel, have you already taken the Java course? Okay, so. Let's see. While we're waiting, I'm going to put another variable name in the chat. So, good or bad name? Yes, because it's separated by an underscore. Okay, I have another idea. So, while we're waiting, I'm going to have up types of variables, and I'm going to type maybe a number, maybe a word, maybe a character in the chat. So then you'll tell me what kind of variable that is going to be. So I typed true. Yes, that is correct. That is a Boolean, because Boolean is just a condition of, is this true, is it not? Or is it true or false? So yeah.
Good. And not have to worry about it. Where's the what? Right there. Oh.
Daniel, do you realize you're unmuted?
Yeah. Yes,
All
I
right.
do. I just walked into my room so I could turn on my phone, so that way while we were trying to find the wasp, I could still answer questions.
Okay. So do you want me to like go ahead and go on? Is that?
Oh yeah, it's fine.
All right. I'm gonna put one more variable in the chat. Is it a int, character, double, string, or Boolean?
Huh?
It's 43.25. Yeah.
No.
It is actually not an integer or an int, because it has to be a whole, or not a whole, like an integer. If you guys know, it can't have any numbers after the decimal point. So like -5, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's an integer. A double is any number, and I think it has a wider scope. So yes, you guys are right that it's a double. And a Boolean is not a number at all. It's true or false. We're going to go back to Codecademy. So there's an intro here. Programming enables people to write programs. We've already said that. Here's kind of a graphic. So, the program goes into this thing called a compiler, which then makes it into something that can be executed
on any platform.
So the kind of the universal test or greeting that we use for a programming language is hello world, which just prints it to the screen. And in this case, your screen's going to be over here. So, and in this case, it's a very friendly format. So you just hit the run button, and you've officially run your first line of your first program. So, and over here, here's your instructions for Codecademy, and then this will tell you whether you've done it right or not. And this little thing is a hint. So if you're just kind of stuck, this might be able to help you. It's a drop-down button. And then there's also a thing called a cheat sheet. So if you open up the cheat sheet, it'll give you things like this. So it's just one long page without the lessons, just all the vocabulary and stuff. And then down here, if you're really stuck and say for some reason you aren't you just want to like see what other people have gotten, you can also, you know, ask somebody on the team if you happen to see them, or you can say look at the forums, so other people might have the same issue as you. So once you finish the exercise, there'll be a little next button that highlights itself, and you can click that. And you can always go back if you're having trouble in the next lesson. Maybe there's something in the last lesson you missed. So some programs are just one file like this. Our robot program is quite a few files, which I'll probably show you at the end of the lesson. And inside this file, we have a class. A class is just one single real-world concept, as we said. So, you know, a bicycle, or Codecademy commonly uses a savings account or a store. So usually the primary class name is the same name as the file. And we use curly braces to mark the beginning and end. So yeah, and then the last program you saw, it had this little thing, and that just means print this out to the screen. So it's telling the system to put this little thing in parentheses out to the screen. So now let's say it says it's a hello you class, and then this is the main method, which is the place that actually runs your program. And it's asking you to add a statement which prints hello some name with your name replacing some name. So make sure to end each statement inside of here with a semicolon. So, and it gives you an example. And then here's the hint. So I'll give you guys a minute or two to try and figure that out. And if not, if you can't, then click the hint, and then I'll show you what I put. So now, while we're waiting for people to do that, if you already figure it out, then I will put another variable in the chat. So if I were to make this, and I just put the name Bell in the chat, if I were to make that a variable, what kind of variable would it be? And yeah, this time I don't have the thing up. And there are a few that you can eliminate pretty quickly since it's not a number. So yes, it is a string. It's not a character, because that would just be something like B or R or A or something. A string is multiple characters. So hopefully you guys have figured out, or at least are ready to move on somewhat. So Evan, you want to answer that question that just popped up in the chat?
I honestly don't actually know.
Yes,
I
there
don't
is a
want to.
parse function. You can use it on strings or integers. It's mostly used on doubles and strings, so you can get maybe the integer part of the double. Yes, it is a thing. It's not used that often.
Okay, yeah, because I've never seen it used.
All right, so let's say I got stuck. Oh no, I don't know how to do this. So here's the thing, and then it says, oh, you place the message inside the double quotes in here, and then you put that inside the parentheses of this line. So it gives you, if you're getting stuck, it gives you kind of the template for what you should do. Yeah, and this is an L, not a 1. So now that I know that, I can type in and then you don't want to forget the quotation. So I'm going to type in my name and here. And so what did I do wrong here? Type it in the chat. I did something wrong here. I'm not ready to run this code yet, and why not? Yes, somebody said semicolon. If you don't put a semicolon, then it's just not going to run correctly. So I'll show you what happens when I don't put a semicolon. It's going to give you an error. And here it says, it'll give you the line and what it thinks you did wrong. And so, oh no, you expect a semicolon at the end of this line. So, oh thanks, Java. So then you put a semicolon, and notice that this will not let you pass until you run it correctly. So there we go. So now I can go on to the next exercise.
I will give a quick little thing on there. Code Academy is nice, and it tells you that you missed it. But realistically, in a lot of places, it'll tell you like the next thing that is after it is wrong. So do keep that in mind. Sometimes it is hard to diagnose
so it
that
might just be
semicolon is missing.
Yeah, so it might just be kind of the approximate line that it thinks it's going to give you its best guess, but maybe it doesn't know exactly what you want it to do because you haven't told it yet. So now, like I said earlier, you want to keep your program organized. Like, one of the ways to do that is commenting, so it can instruct people how your program is working in case they need to edit it or need to use it for themselves. So yeah, they're notes to human readers of how the code works. On a single line, if it's just a short comment, you just use these 2 slashes. But on multi-lines, you use a slash and then a little star, and you do a star and a slash at the very end. So see here, they have an example, and it's explaining, oh, this is a comment in a class, and then a comment inside the main method. And so they're different from printing to the screen. Comments don't affect how your code runs at all. And so they won't show up. So the instructions are: the file timeline.java has plain text information. Plain text facts aren't valid syntax. So this is not a good thing because you just typed in here and Java doesn't know what to do with it. So it's going to say change this line into a comment, and since it's just one line, you just do that, and then most programs are going to change color for each little thing you do. So it's probably going to have a different color. And oh no, there's still an error. That's because we haven't changed this yet. So our program is still broken. Now we're going to use the multi-line, which is this, and then you don't want to just leave that because that's going to comment out the entire bottom of your program basically. So you want to make sure that just that chunk is commented out. So now everything should print out and you should get no error messages. Dane had a question in the chat. Evan?
For you, Dane, I believe if you're asking, like, if I think it's correct, like if you were to put an extra 2 slashes after Sun Microsystems, that would do absolutely nothing. Like on line 7, Kaya. Like there, it won't do anything. Even if you put it inside of another comment, it won't really do anything. It'll just be part of the comment.
I think maybe talking about the multi-line where you can just highlight that and then you can put the double slash before all that and I'll comment it. It just doesn't look like as neat as using.
Yeah, so technically you could double comment each line, but if you can avoid that, then do avoid that because, you know, comments are for people being able to read this, so you want it to be kind of nice and neat. Otherwise, people get angry at you. That did not work. There we go. So, next. So, as you saw with the last one, and I think I mentioned this during the slideshow as well, reading code is just as important as writing it. So, in addition to commenting, like we said, you want your line to end in a semicolon. You don't want to just keep typing and semicolon, typing and semicolon. Java will interpret that, but humans will have a harder time with that. So, see, it runs technically, and see, it technically worked, but since I didn't do what Codecademy was asking me, it still put an X. So now what you do is you just click enter in front of each one of these, and it's a lot nicer to read. So now it wants us to print another thing. So I'm going to do something wrong again, and you guys are going to tell me what I'm doing. Wrong. That is correct. There's no quotes. So see how this is not the same color as this? If you want to print something out to the screen, that's not going to work. Because you have to have your message like this. And if you just put 1, then you are making this part of it, and that is not okay. Oh, what? Do that. There we go. And I'm going to put a period here just for my own sanity's sake. There we go. So, like I did a couple times, it catches errors. But, yeah. So a compiler is a program that translates the human-friendly programming language into other programming languages that computers can execute. So technically, it's kind of 2 different files before it actually gets executed. So previously, Codecademy automatically compiled and ran this for you. Some programs will do this for you, but others won't. and the compiler will catch mistakes before our computer runs our code and makes a big mess of it. And Codecademy does have a lesson on the command line, which is basically what all is in here. But for now, we have this, say we have this file called plankton. We would compile it with this command, so javac, and then it would give us a .class file. Then we just run java plankton, and then an unsuccessful compilation produces a list of errors. So now let's practice. So our text editor contains a broken program at first. So don't make any corrections before you do this, because that's what Codecademy says, because we want to see how it catches your error. And then press enter. So see, it gave you an error. So it's not actually going to do anything. Oh, yeah, and there's a check work button. So that actually does the check mark because you're not technically running your program. So you see the error. So in the terminal, type that, which is ls, and press return. ls is short for list, and this shows you all the available files, and that shows that you didn't successfully compile this thing because there's not a .class file. So now we add the missing semicolon back in, and yeah, so you don't actually compile it now, it's just going to ask you to move on to the next exercise. So it helped us catch our error. Now let's actually compile this thing successfully. So I believe this part is just kind of reiterating what it's already told you. So let's compile and run our program. And you do have to have the .java after this. Oh, okay. I did that wrong. See, this is what happens when you don't read instructions. So first, you're going to do the ls just to see the uncompiled thing, and you always want to click the check work. So now we're going to have to compile. And it worked. And you can tell by running ls again, which shows you that you now have 2 files. So now let's run this. There we go. Java. Aha. So now we've finally run our program, and now you know how to compile things. And so this next exercise is just kind of putting it all together. So we've started writing our first program. And this part, usually the very end one, just kind of runs through what you've learned in a very quick manner. So now it says, hey, you have this thing called, you have your text editor. And so you want to type that in. And don't forget to use your curly braces. And usually it'll add both of them for you. So now you just, oh shoot, what did I do? Yep, okay. So I've made this thing, but it doesn't actually have a method in it. So now you're going to want to make a main method. And I believe, yep, so, and this is the thing that you write in. So you'll have to write that in, which is why I clicked the hint, because I remember struggling with that. There's a bunch of words you got to write. So just go ahead and type that in. And then don't forget your curly braces. So now you have your main method. So now it technically works, but you don't actually have any program in there. So now it says to write a comment. I'm just gonna So now if you remember the next command to make it print something is this thing with the quotations in it. Hopefully it works. Ta-da! So now you've officially finished your first Codecademy lesson. So Evan, were we gonna have them complete the next one, or are we just gonna have them do this one and then learn about variables on their own?
We should probably go over the variables one.
Okay, so I'll probably go over this one just a little quicker because now you've seen kind of how Codecademy works, and you know if it asks you to like do a pro subscription or whatever, just you can skip everything. So now we're going to get into variables, and now there are 9 exercises. So we have this, and it says, let's say, usually the example on the side is going to be different from this, just so you get the concept, but it's not giving you the answers. So let's say we need a program that gives somebody a new job. We need the person's name, salary, and employment. And all of these pieces of information are stored in our program. The way we store information is in variables, as we said earlier. And the names give context to the data we're storing. So that's why we name them. The variables we're talking about are primitive data types, which are just built in because you can also kind of import other more advanced things. Can you directly print a number, or does it have to be a string? No, you can print a number. You can, yeah. So we must first declare the variable to have it in our program, and that requires we specify the type and the name. And as you see here, they don't have it assigned to any value yet, they just have it. You can do that either way. So you can do that on the same line, which we use the equals, like right here. So in this file, we have some variables defined, and inside main, we're going to print out the variable name. And so yes, this kind of answers Daniel's question earlier. See, as long as there's something assigned to the variable, then yeah, it's going to print it out. So now we're going to use the same command to print out year created.
One second, guys. Dane just said he's not done with the last lesson.
Sorry. Dane, is there a specific part you're stuck on, or? Okay, so where specifically are you stuck right now? The beginning. Okay, Daniel says, how do you print out 2 things together? Like, we can print them out separately, but can we concatenate, which just means put them together, the 2 variables? Yes, you can do that. So I believe. And Codecademy will show you this later. But see, and it doesn't put a space in there. So if you do want to have like a space in there, then you have to actually put that in here. So now that works, but I'm just gonna put it back here. So Dane, but like what specifically lesson are you struggling with? Okay, he says, never mind, almost done. So I'll just go back here. And if you do get like really behind or have to leave, you can always just watch the video later. Oh, and I see it's already brought me to the next exercise. So while we're waiting, does anybody else have any questions about Java or anything at all? Okay. Well, while we're waiting, I'm going to talk about robotics because we're on the robotics team. So, this is just, you're learning syntax and stuff right now, but in reality, in first robotics, you're going to have a lot of different ways to write code. So there's this thing called GitHub, which I was going to show you at the very end. But so this is a website that we use to kind of share our code with each other and have it in a place. So I don't remember, I think. Oh, shoot. I think that's my password. Fantastic.
GitHub is not a scary place if you ended up seeing Dane's message. It's just a place to store a bunch of code and is a very large open source community. So this is actually our code from last year.
Yeah, so
If you want to take a
basically,
look through it.
yeah. So a README is like kind of the thing that you put introducing your code and saying what it is. So I'm going to switch to something that I've been working on, which our programming mentor made. So this is his README. So, it kind of talks about, hey, welcome to this thing, and then this is how you set it up. So actually, once you're done with Codecademy, I would recommend using his Swerve simulator as kind of another exercise. It doesn't work on your Chromebooks, but I believe if you just type in Swerve simulator, you might have to go to all GitHub, but oh wow, that's a lot of. But yeah, his username is Bobobolink, or if you just type in his username, and then click users, click this guy, and go to Swerve Simulator. And so I can, if anybody wants to find this, yeah, it also requires like an Xbox or a game controller or something. If anybody wants to find this, we'll probably show it to them during when we actually can start meeting in person. But yeah, back to our robot code. So usually in robot code, it's kept under source main Java FRC robot. And here's all of our files. We're going to work on organizing them at some point. But here's So you can kind of import things, and then this just kind of says, you know, run all these different parts which are held in all the different files. And yeah, Evan put the link to the swerve simulator if you guys want to save that for later once you feel more confident using Java and Codecademy. So let's say, and that just kind of has all the different things running as well. Let me. This is a good example, maybe. So yeah, so you can import different kind of packages, I guess, and Codecademy will show you how to do this. But in this case, we have WPIlib or WipiLib or whatever you call it. This is how you spell it, and it's basically just a huge compilation of code that's useful to robotics. I can't think of any team that doesn't use it. So it has all these resources. And it was created by the college that I believe Dean Kamen went to. Dean Kamen is the founder first. So yeah, so here you can see we have a Boolean and we have a class. And this is kind of empty, but then the period kind of accesses the stuff in here.
I think we should probably look a little bit more into this in the next meeting because this is still the basics.
I'm just kind of showing people around just to show them how we basically this is how we get our program onto the internet. Are there libraries for Java? Evan?
Yeah.
I believe WPIlib has Java and C++, maybe?
WPIlib has C++ as well, and kind of Python if any of you are familiar with it, but we won't be using that because it's still kind of in the beta phase.
So now let's go ahead and move on to variables. So like I said, int or integer is, as it's short for, is just a whole number. So there's no decimal place or anything. And, you know, we actually had a small issue on a robot where I believe we had something declared as an int, but then it divided two numbers that didn't come out as an integer, which kind of messed up the code a little bit. So you do want to make sure you're declaring the right variable type. So it allows between this number and this number. So it's a lot of numbers. But we use the int keyword before every name. So this file here has some comments in it. Count the number of comments, and then inside the main method, declare a variable called numComments that holds how many comments you counted. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 comments. So, and Codecademy uses camel case, which is just it starts out with a word and then each word after that is capitalized and there's no spaces. So int numComments equals, what did I say, 6? 6. Yeah, and then you can use double for any number, but we'd like you to at least know what ints are. We generally like to use doubles more. So
professionally, the reason to use int is that when you use a double, it automatically has to save enough space in the program to do a double, which is more bits than just 1 bit. So if you're creating a huge program or a ton of programs for a company and it uses up more space, then that's not as efficient. But in general, for what we're using it, yes, a double is probably going to work most of the time.
So now I've declared this thing. Oh, dead. So declare the variable and then run it. And then now it tells you to print out the number of comments. No, I've messed myself up. So yeah, Codecademy will tell you exactly what it wants you to do. So it's important to, read instructions. So see, we successfully printed it. Now, as Eric said, there are reasons to use ints and reason to use doubles. So now we're going to talk about doubles. And whole numbers, we can't necessarily just use whole numbers for every program, especially not robotics. So we need to store, let's say, a price or something to do with math. We need a decimal point, and it can hold decimals as well as very, very large numbers. So yeah, I don't know what my mouse did there, sorry. To declare that, we just use the double keyword in the declaration. As of 2016, Android has this many % of the market share for blah, blah, blah. Create a variable called Android share, and that holds this percentage as a double. Oh yeah. So you have to don't forget to put this in front of it. Okay. What did I do wrong? No semicolon, correct. Ta-da! And now I want you to print it. So yeah. So now we've completed this lesson, so now we're going on to the next one. So now Booleans, like I said earlier, it's true or false. So it answers a yes or no question, basically. Did I eat breakfast? Which in high school, probably not. But is the oven on? Is the light green? And in robotics, a lot of times I know for our, I don't know if you all know what the game was, but we had this wheel of color that you spun it, and then our robot landed on a wheel, and I believe we had a sensor. I don't know if that's exactly how it worked, but this is just a general example. And then let's say it returns to the robot. Let's say you have a Boolean called is on color green, and then it would return true or false, and then you do something according to that. So we use the keyword beforehand and then declare it. And like I said, in future lessons, we'll see how it kind of helps navigate decisions in programming using if-else statements a lot of times. So now you're going to make what it says in the chat. Booming. Set it to true if the int type can hold a decimal number. Set it to false if the int type cannot do this. So in the chat, can the int type hold a decimal number? No. So we are going to set this to true or false. Correct. It is false. I should say it is false. And Codecademy is going to have us use this print out command a lot for some reason. I guess it just wants you to get used to it. And we do use this sometimes, like if something's wrong with our robot code for some reason, or if the robot just stopped running, then we'll have it print stuff to the screen. So now we have a single letter or a punctuation mark. It can hold anything. Basically, if you hit on your keyboard once, then that's kind of a character. So it must be surrounded by single quotes, which is different from a string, which uses the double quotes, like the actual quotes. So create a variable called expected grade of type character.
Hey, Kaya. Just
Yep.
one thing you were talking about the print line. Oftentimes when you're writing code, you'll print things so that you know that it's reading everything correctly, and then you'll take those prints out when you actually run what you're trying to run. But the printing can let you know that everything's reading everything correctly.
Okay, yeah. That also makes sense. Good point, Eric. Thank you. Mr. Sills, sorry. So let's say we make a variable of the character type and expected grade. Fill it with a single letter representing the grade you think you would get in a graded Java course where the grades A, B, C, D, and F are possible. I'm going to say that I would probably get a B. Oh, great. Yeah. So what did I do wrong here? Anybody? Anybody? So yeah, exactly. So we have to put the quotes, the single quotes around here, and now it works. So now we're gonna just print it out. And I think I saw a question pop up in the chat, possibly. Dane, I would recommend going back and watching it later just to see what I did, just to kind of compare, because we will have a YouTube lesson, so just check for that within the next couple of weeks. Why do you only have CHR there when you told us that we need to have the VAR beforehand? In Java, generally, you don't need to have that there. Evan might have said that we do, but maybe some programs do, but in this particular one.
I said because I was used to code.org because that's what I did in McKeever's class, and you have to put var in that.
Okay, so there are different websites that do make you do that, but in this case, usually you don't. And on the software that we use, it's called, in the one that I use at least is IntelliJ. You don't have to do that.
Though it is industry standard that you do that, just simply because if you're looking for declaring a variable to grab it, that means then it distinctly separates it from setting the variable compared to grabbing the variable.
Okay. Well, on Codecademy, it will not allow you to do that. So just kind of get to know the software that you're using. So far we've learned primitive data types, which are simple with no kind of built-in behavior. And now we're using strings, which are objects instead of just primitives. They have kind of built-in behavior. So strings hold sequences of characters, and when you printed out hello world, that's a string that you printed. So you can put that directly in a command, and it said, like, system.out.println. You can just put it directly in there, or if you're using it for other purposes, you're going to want to usually have a variable that declares your string. So now create a variable called opening lyrics that holds, I believe these are lyrics to a Beatles song or something. So don't forget to declare the name, the type, and then the name. So, and then I won't copy the quotes just to show you. You do need to have the little quotation marks there, and then don't forget your semicolon. And it wants you to print that out. So instead of just printing out that thing, you're going to put the variable name in here. Ta-da! And now you have made a string and printed it. Okay, yeah, so Java will not compile if the assigned value is of a correct type. So what I was asking in the chat earlier, like if I type this in the chat, give me the name of the variable or whatever. If you give it the wrong type, then it's not going to work. So bugs are things that go wrong in our code, like syntax errors and stuff. So they're dangerous. They can make our code crash, or they can give us something that we don't want, which is, I believe there's a saying that goes, most of programming is just debugging. So as you can see here, they have a string, but it's declared as an integer, which does not work. So now it gives you an error, and that's a runtime error. And Java helps you avoid these errors by catching it in the compiler before things go bad. So in this file, it's called mess.java. We've declared a bunch of variables, and now we're going to try and type this in the compiler. So if you remember, it's javac and then file name.java. And uh-oh, it's not working. Oh, shoot. Ah, okay.
Kaya? Oh,
yeah, I typed
never
it
mind,
wrong.
you fixed it.
Yeah, I typed it wrong. And that's another thing. You should always, like, if you're writing a program, you should always go through and make sure you didn't just mistype a little thing, because I do that a lot, which is definitely a thing that I'm pretty sure most programmers have done before, which can cause large errors. So you want to make sure that you haven't just made kind of a silly typing error, because that can always happen. So now, as you can see, it's given us an error. So you're going to change all these variable types so that they correspond to the type of variable. So for example, year is assigned to 2001, but it should be an integer. You're just going to change these. And if you don't remember these, that's why I believe there's a cheat sheet that gives you all of these. So I'll give you guys a second to type that in. So this is what happens if you don't pick the right variable type. So make sure that you're picking the right type when you declare your variable. So now I'm going to go ahead and run that. So now compile this again. And now it has no errors. And you don't need to run it for Codecademy to let you move on. So now we're going to talk more about naming conventions, which is don't put a ridiculous name for something that clearly doesn't correspond to your variable name. So for example, data does not go with a person's name at all. Name of user does. This leads to clear, readable, and maintainable code. And in Java, variable names are case sensitive. So if you type in my height with this capital letter, but then ask it to print out my height with no capital letter, it's not going to do anything. The length of a name is unlimited, but you don't want to have just this long string of letters. And I believe somewhere I have saved a picture of some team that did make a very long string, and it took me a minute to read. So yeah. So usually a variable name starts with a valid letter or this, so a $sign or an underscore. But no other symbols or numbers can begin a variable name, such as a 1 or a star. So be sure not to do that. And so here it's telling you how to use camel case. So first word is always lowercase. So if you just have one word, then you just make it lowercase. In the bad names.java file, we declared variables with confusing names. Run the file and look at the error messages when you try to compile. See, now it gives you a bunch of errors because you have just terrible names. Some of these names are illegal. Change the ones that are preventing the file from compiling. So let's say string email. So that had a dot in front of it. So can anybody tell me in the chat why this is wrong? Why this 1 in front of here is wrong? Because 1 is starting the name, because you cannot have a number as the first letter of a variable name. So the program runs, but these names are still kind of terrible. So yeah. So it doesn't tell you to fix any of the other names because it technically lets your program run. But I'm going to go ahead and show you. So this one, blah. So let's say string name, or let's say first name, user, name user1, name user2, then email.
Kaya, I think it'll be better to have it as first name, last name.
Yeah. Oh, duh, they're the same person. So yeah, you can do first name. Just depends on how you want your data to be organized. And then this, it's not in camel case. And this technically is right, but generally in Java we like to use camel case.
Even if you don't use camel case, at least keep it consistent.
Yeah. You want to stay organized and not annoy people to death. So this part just kind of reviews, so if you want to read through that again, that's fine. So the my profile contains a class that represents your hiring profile in the main. Create a variable called name that holds your name with a sequence of characters. So a sequence of characters, what kind of variable would that be? Put that in the chat. That is correct. That is a string. A variable called age. which is an integer. So let's say I'm 105. Create a variable called desired salary that holds your desired salary per year to a precision of 2 decimal points. So 2 decimal points is a double. Thank you, Daniel. I do look very young for 105. Desired salary. So it gives you decimal points. So let's say and don't put the $sign here because that's not part of it. That's not part of the double because it just stores numbers and nothing else. Oh shoot, yep. Semicolon. Yay. Yeah. So now character is just 1 letter. So we'll do that. What did I do? Oh, duh, yeah. And this is why you always make sure you do everything right and type everything right. Because like I said, most of programming is just debugging. So variable looking for job, whether or not you're currently open to job offers. So if this is a yes or no question, then what kind of variable would I use? Boolean, yep. Perhaps if I spelled this right. And let's say I'm looking for a job. So now you've done that lesson. Are there any questions at all? Okay, in that case, thank you guys for coming. Evan or Nick, is there anything you guys would like to add? Nope. Okay.
Please finish
Yeah.
this entire course before next programming meeting, because we will be going into deeper topics that you have to know this course roughly in order to understand. So please finish the course.
The next
Yeah,
meeting is
so
the 2nd or 3rd week of December, right?
yeah, it's pretty late.
Yeah. So 2nd or 3rd week of December is when the next meeting is for programming.
And so if you've been following along, you've already finished 15% of it, which is great. And if not, you can just go back, watch the videos and see what I did, maybe see what you did wrong or why you were confused.
So to answer Daniel's question of, is there a website portion of it? Unfortunately, there is no longer going to be website programming inside of this, because I have taken that over and it's a very tiny portion of what we do. So I will be taking over the website portion of it. And I think that's all on the website portion of it.
And I mean, eventually, if you really want to do web development, I'm sure Nick would show you.